Here's the easiest and the fastest way to plot any sine or cos graph. So, obviously, to solve this problem, we'll need to have a starting point. But how can you be sure of your starting point? Well, you can see at this point, our x shift will be pi on 4 to the left. But to be sure, what we can do is, so for our starting point will always be 2x plus 4 pi on 4. So we just take this thing is equal to 0 and we solve for x. So our x will be negative pi on 4. That's our starting point. So if we've got our axes here and this is 0, then our starting point will be negative pi on 4. And this is where the graph will start or whatever. So if you've got that concept clear, now we can move on to the next part, which is you obviously need an end. So where will be our end part of this graph? So first we need to find period. So period is always 2 pi over n, and this part is n. So this 2 would be n. Or it could be any number, but for this graph it's 2. So 2 pi over 2. So our period is pi. Right? Now, that's not done actually, because we need to add this to our starting point to get our actual end point. So pi plus minus pi on 4 would be, so this is the same thing as 4 pi on 4. So this will be 3 pi on 4. So this is actually our end point now, and this is our start point. So we've got our start and our end points. Now we need 5 points on the graph. So we need 5 points on the graph, which will make our wave, right? So these points, we need these points, right? So how would we do that? So first we've got our start point and end point. Our start point is negative pi on 4, and our end point is 3 pi on 4, right? So now we need the 3 extra parts of this to make a full wave. So right, we need extra 3 parts. So the middle, how would we find the middle? So what we will do is we'll do the midpoint formula. So it'll be this plus this over 2, or divide by 2, right? So we go 3 pi over 4 plus pi on 4, negative pi on 4, which will be 2 pi on 4. So this is obviously pi on 2. But what we do further is pi on 2 divided by 2, or times by half, because we're finding the midpoint. So we're adding these two together and dividing by 2 to find the midpoint. So it'll be pi on 4. So our midpoint is pi on 4 here. Now to find the midpoint of these 2 points, we'll just go negative pi on 4 plus pi on 4, which is 0. 0 divided by 2 is still 0. So that's our 1 point. And then we have to find the midpoint of these 2. So 3 pi on 4 plus pi on 4 is, so pi on 4 plus 3 pi on 4 is pi. But then we have to divide by 2, so it's pi on 2. So that's our thing. So those are our 5 points. We've got our 5 points on our graph to make the wave, right? And it's always 5 points for one period. So one whole wave, you need 5 points, right? So we've got our 5 points here. Next part. So we've got our 5 points, we've got our starting point, we've got our end point. Now what else can we see? So we can see that this graph's center line is actually +1. So the graph would actually be like +1. So let's say this is actually a center line now. So this is where the wave will be, not here, right? So another thing we need to take into consideration is the amplitude. The amplitude is 2, but we don't go 2 up from here and 2 down from here. Our center line has moved from this part to here. So we go 2 up from here. So 1 plus 2 is 3, and 2 down from here. 1 minus 2 is -1. There we go. So we've got that. Let me just fix that up. Alright, we've got that. Now we've got our 5 points on our graph, which is negative pi on 4. Oh wait, let me make this graph better actually. So let me use a better pen as well. So we've got this. We've got this. So our center line is 1. So we'll just make a little dotted line to remind us that the center line is right here. And we're going up 2. So we'll go here. 3. Because 2 plus 1 is 3, and then obviously we'll go 2 down. So -1. Then we've got our 5 points on our graph. So our starting point is negative pi on 4. Obviously this is 0. Our next point was pi on 4. Wait, let me just fix this up. This is kind of annoying to look at. Alright. Pi on 4, pi on 2, and 3 pi on 4. So this is one period, right? One wave. So we've got one wave. But now let's just clarify. So we've got everything, right? This is a cos wave, so it's going to start like this. And the sign is positive, so that's why it starts up here. If it was negative, it would start like that. So since it's a cos wave, it starts up here. Right. But since our actual starting point is now at negative pi on 4, we kind of start over here. And then our next point will be right here, because it's our center line. And then the next point will be here. Oh wait, no. It'll be right here. Next point will be over here. And the next point will be up here. Let me get rid of that. Oops, I don't need that. Alright. And then we can make our wave. There we go. So that's our one wave. And obviously you need to take in consideration on your exam or test. It might say, let's say, 0 to, let's say the domain was negative pi to pi. So we'll have to extend this graph until negative pi to pi, or whatever it is, and you keep making your graph, right? But so far this is one period of the graph. So this is the graph plotted. So you've got 3 main points. You've got your starting, your end point, your 5 points, and then you've got your actual graph. You also have your center line. You have to be careful of that, and your amplitude going up and down. But so far we've plotted a really good graph. This is a cos graph. So sine graphs would look like this. It starts from the center, not up here like a cos graph. A cos graph looks like this. And you have to be careful about the plus and minus sign. This will always trip you, because you'll just forget about it, because there's so much to do. So if it was a negative sine graph, it would look like this. And if it was a negative cos graph, it would look like that. That's just something to keep in mind. But that's the main point. This is how to plot the cos graph, and pretty much any other sine or cos graph. I hope you found this video helpful. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.